Betsy DeVos has decades of experience in the education freedom trenches. She served as the education secretary in the Trump administration, and she says the time has come for a new approach to American education because we've tried throwing truckloads of money at schools, and even that didn't make them open school any sooner during the pandemic. We've tried banning poisonous ideologies like critical race theory, but that's not stopping the radicals from trying to indoctrinate kids. So maybe, just maybe, the real answer is school choice. I want you to welcome to the show former Secretary of Education and the author of this brand new book called Hostages No More, Betsy DeVos. Madam Secretary, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I am very, very glad to welcome you and to talk about this book because you were on the front lines fighting for education freedom. And the neat thing was the teachers' unions just loved you for that, right?
They did indeed.
Yeah. You're the only Secretary of Education that needed personal protection because of the threats. I just don't even understand that.
I know. It was really hard to understand, and it still is. My heart and my advocacy for 30 plus years has been for kids and for their futures. But there are powerful forces that stand against that in the form of the teachers' unions, or as I like to refer to them, the school unions, because they try to envelop everybody into their network.
We've seen some pretty crazy things lately. School boards in places like Virginia that essentially told parents, just shut up and send your kids to us. We'll take it from there.
That's right. I mean, there was a definitive governor's race in Virginia that really hinged on the differences between the two candidates, one doubling down on protecting the system and protecting the status quo, and the other standing with parents and kids. And Glenn Youngkin was victorious in that.
He was, and that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I think there was some just shock that the Department of Justice even talked about having a special unit that would call parents who would go to a school board meeting and express themselves domestic terrorists.
Yes, sending the FBI out to investigate them. I mean, it's just inconceivable.
You talk about the importance of parents being involved in their kids' life in this book, Hostages No More. I love the title because really, in some ways, parents and children are being held hostage by an educational establishment that sort of says, we got this, don't interfere with us. When you went to the Department of Education, I don't think anybody doubted that you were going to be a disruptor, that you intended to be, to try to say, there's got to be better ways. We've tried the big money approach. Results are not good.
Exactly.
You're a champion for school choice. Tell us what that looks like.
Well, I like to actually refer to it more broadly as education freedom. Because when we talk about school choice...
I like that. I like that a lot.
Well,
yeah.
we think about buildings, and education can actually happen well beyond buildings. And we need to think more broadly about what that experience could be like for kids in their K-12 years. There's a small school in West Michigan where I'm from, and you all know Michigan is pretty cold in the winter. But this but this is a school. This is a school that is outdoors. Kids are outdoors all day long, and they choose to be there. And the teachers who are there choose to be there.
In the winter?
In the winter. They have special suits to be outside, and they're doing their activities and projects, and they'll come inside for short periods of time to check in with their teacher on some of the things they're learning. But they're outdoors the entire school day. And that's what they love to do, and that's where they love to be. So my point is, we need to get beyond thinking about buildings that exist, and we need to think about what education can look like and how it can generate enthusiasm and stoke the curiosity that's naturally innate in children. So education freedom is the term I like to use, and it's supported by policies that give parents the control of the resources that are already spent on that child.
And Madam Secretary, for some people, that's still going to be their neighborhood public school. That's going to be their best choice.
Absolutely.
And I want to be always fair to say there are some fantastic teachers across America. My sister being one of them, who retired after 38 years in the classroom. Yes. So I love our teachers, but even the teachers don't get to have educational freedom most times.
education freedom would actually be awesome for teachers because they could find the kind of fit that works for them. Maybe you're a teacher who does really well with multi-age children at multiple levels, more of a one-room schoolhouse type thing. And maybe you're a teacher that loves a traditional classroom setting. Maybe you're a teacher that loves to teach outdoors. But this would give teachers a full range of options and possibilities. And it would also value teachers in a way like never before.
But we're seeing a lot of parents, they're making choices to either homeschool, send their kids to a Christian school or maybe a private school. In the world of educational freedom, how would it work so that parents, not just the wealthiest, who can send their kids anywhere they want, they can even ship them off if they want to, they can afford to do that. A lot of parents can't afford to pay the tuition. How would educational freedom work for a single mom who loves her kids as much as the wealthiest person in town? How does that help her?
Well, if that mom was able to get the resources, and on average, we spend $15,000 per child per year in this country. Some places more, considerably more, and some places less. But on average, if those resources were attached to that child, the backpack metaphor, that mom could buy that child's education wherever she wanted to.
What is the biggest obstacle to moving us from where we are to what you've just described, which I would like to think that most of our folks, even in this room, would say, I like that better?
The biggest impediment is the status quo headed up by the teacher unions, the school unions, and all of their allies. I got to learn and experience most of those in Washington. It's an alphabet soup full of organizations, and they all have many lobbyists, but they're all lobbying for adult issues and for the power and the resources that they enjoy today to protect those and enhance those. And indeed, we've been enhancing them. My argument is we need to turn those resources back around to the parents to direct and control. And we'll see first of all, we'll see a lot more creativity around the kind of experiences kids can have in their learning. And there will be a lot more accountability because the families will be able to make those decisions. There'll be hostages no more. And I just wanted to mention about the hostages no more is a provocative title.
Yeah.
But it's a reference to what Horace Mann, who's commonly known as the founder of our education system, 175 years ago said, that educators are entitled to look upon parents as having given hostages to our cause.
Wow. No wonder the book is called Hostages No More. I think parents across America are going to hear from the former Secretary of Education, who spent a lifetime trying to bring real reform to the educational environment. Our audience is going to want to check out your latest book, Hostages No More, The Fight for Education Freedom and the Future of the American Child. We have a link to the book and to also Secretary DeVos at Huckabee.tv, along with all the social media channels that you need to keep up with Betsy DeVos.